Somebody said I'm a lesbian. Come on. Somebody said I'm a liar. Come on. Somebody said I'm a child abuser. Come on. Come unto me. Ain't God all right? I came to Jesus. Ah!
What's our purpose? Is it to ourselves, to the people around us, the world at large, or something, someone higher? How do we react when we're called upon, so to speak, and what does it say about us? Who's in control? When does a story become more important than the people the story is about? And for the people being told the story, what do they need more? Truth or hope? I literally have no idea. But anyway, I recently watched this movie. The Last Temptation of Christ takes the main character of what's arguably the most influential story ever told, maybe, and brings him to eye level. The camera often places us in the POV of a face in the crowd, peeking over shoulders while our guy JC of Nazareth relays the word of God to his peers. In a way, it's like we're made complicit in his downfall. Through Scorsese's lens, we serve as passive onlookers while Jesus is publicly beaten and humiliated. Not so innocent bystanders. At one point, we're even cast into the first-person perspective of Roman soldiers, active antagonists, raining down on Jesus and his disciples. It's like when it comes to media, we think we're in control as the viewer, free to judge and speculate on the spectacle, when in fact we're subject to the manipulation of whoever's holding the camera, whoever's telling the story, their biases, their backgrounds. And in the case of Martin Scorsese, like with a lot of his films, I think the Catholic guilt bleeds through on this one. He knows we've sinned. He believes we have that in common.
Who has never sinned? Who? Which one of you people has never sinned?
This belief, this commonality, isn't meant to push us away, but to pull us in. Like maybe we could be a part of something greater, maybe feel a little more free if we could find a way to release our judgments along with our guilt, our burdens along with our grudges, to see them as one, to let go of our stones without throwing them. The way Scorsese tells a story visually is kind of shocking at times, in the way it depicts these gruesome, almost horror movie type images, remaining true to how they're described in the Bible, really. It's realistic, I think, and once again serves to make the audience absorb the events head on in a subjective, visceral way, which is specifically important for this topic, the topic of religion. By using body horror for shock value in a story about religion, I think it presents the idea that suffering, something every living person experiences, serves as the necessary means through which people arrive at faith as a practice, and thereby assimilate into faith-based communities. At least for me, the most fanatically religious people I know personally have usually converted or found God after experiencing some profound trauma in their lives. They sought out salvation, deliverance from evil.
Imagine how strong we could be together. Satan.
It's like how I was telling my 8-year-old nephew the other day. There's something desperate and violent just inherent to the human experience. Happy birthday, kiddo. Because ultimately we're lost. We're sentient beings with limited senses, randomly spawned into the same Minecraft server, but we don't know for certain where we're from or why we're here. We rely on stories, personal accounts, and historical records to give us an idea of what's happened so far and what we should expect next, building on previous structures to keep reaching higher, keep moving forward. But we don't really know anything, right? Not completely. Not as much as we might want to, as much as we may believe. We can only use our limited senses, which make up just a fraction within the full spectrum of what can be perceived. It's the only side of the story we know. It's all we have to work with. Deep down, on an individual level, and even as a species, we're kind of just improvising and doing our best to forget that. And so beneath all forms of man-made structures and civility, it feels like there's this muffled undercurrent of chaos constantly flowing, magma under the surface. We all carry it, and so it unifies us as much as it divides us. or this one big, weird, fleshy organism of 8 billion pieces spread across the earth, like moss on a floating rock, all secretly crying out for God, full of doubt, afraid to die, afraid we're alone.
Father! Why have you forsaken me?
And even though I'm not a member of the church, I've definitely been in a hospital bed or at the climax of a bad drug trip and various other stress-inducing situations when I thought to myself, God, please help me out of this. And isn't that so strange? How whether he is real or not, God at the very least exists as a resource in my mind to turn to when things go wrong and to thank when things go right. And the way that idea got into my head in the first place was because when I was very young and squishy brained, someone told me a story. Someone told me this story. That's the power stories have. We carry them everywhere forever and form identities around them. Like when you leave a movie theater and feel like a different person. We're manipulated by the use of stories, textually, visually, orally, whether they're true or not, and we're made to believe. Because we want to believe in something, anything. We need it. We need idols and enemies, martyrs and devils. Otherwise, we don't have an axis or grid to map our lives on. We're just in vertigo, floating through space, an uncaring universe, an indifferent infinity. Also, wait, how insane is it that this man made Goodfellas immediately after this? Like, what? Put this man on the ballot. This is my president.
But you can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrificed?
We're just in vertigo. We're just in vertigo. Floating through space. Floating through space. An uncaring universe. An uncaring,